Shanks knows about the frozen, giant straw hat that's kept in the chambers by Emu. We learned that Shanks was living in Marijua for years and learned a lot of secrets about Emu, the Nika Devil Fruit, the Holy Knight contract, and I'm sure he's learned even more than what's been revealed yet. It's not a secret that the Straw Hat has big significance in the One Piece world. The most important characters connected to One Piece had it. Joy Boy, Roger, Shanks, and of course Straw Hat Luffy. Even his crew is named after it. In chapter 906, another giant frozen straw hat was revealed in Marijua, which confirmed that these straw hats are way more important than we thought. There were always theories about Luffy's straw hat, and it's not surprising as we're talking about Oda's writing. Some think it's the map of the treasure because there were some interesting lines at the beginning of One Piece. Some think it was the crown of Joy Boy, some think it has a devil fruit, others think it has some kind of other power, etc, etc. Of course, both Luffy and the frozen straw hats are meaningful, but both of them are important in their own way. Let's start with Luffy's straw hat. Oda had the idea about this item even before One Piece. When he made Romance Dawn 1 and 2, both chapters had just a few main themes. In the first version, we see Luffy, Shanks, Nami, and a villain that resembles Buggy. We see the same storyline. Shanks gave Luffy the straw hat and he calls it his treasure. I'm sure you all remember how furious Luffy became when Buggy cut his straw hat. That was the first time we saw Luffy angry. And the same thing happened in Romance Dawn 1. The enemy stepped on his straw hat and Luffy's expression went from chill to angry in seconds. In Romance Dawn version 2, we don't see Shanks. We still see Luffy, Nami, and an enemy that resembles Buggy, but Shanks is replaced by Garp. Garp was the one who gave Luffy a devil fruit and the straw hat, but even in this version, Luffy cares for his straw hat and calls it his treasure. From this, we can speculate that the straw hat has another meaning. It's not connected just between Shanks and Luffy, and as some theories suggest, Luffy's hat is not a map of the treasure, and it's not the reason why Shanks told Luffy to return it when he became a great pirate. Oda had a totally different idea for the straw hat even before starting One Piece. Unlike the frozen straw hat of Marijua, Luffy's straw hat doesn't have any superpowers, nor is it a map to some kind of treasure. I think it would have been kind of stupid. Luffy already has enough plot armor. Oda's intention for the straw hat was to show the idea of friendship and someone caring for you. Everyone is emotionally connected to some kind of item because it reminds them of good times or good people. For other people, it's just an item, but for you, and in this case Luffy, this straw hat means the world because it belongs to his hero, Shanks, and also reminds him of his childhood and why he became a pirate. And for this reason, even though it's just a hat, he is ready to fight anyone. Also, at the end of Romance Dawn 2, Oda made a random panel where Garp tells Luffy that the real treasure is not a huge diamond. Neither is gold, silver, or pearls, and that he will understand it one day. The straw hat is a symbol of connection, trust, and love. The only characters that have worn Luffy's straw hat are Nami, Robin, Usopp, and Tama, and I don't think I have to explain how close these characters are to Luffy. This meaning of connection is also hidden in small details. For example, the first time Luffy and Buggy met, Buggy hated the straw hat as it reminded him of Shanks, and he cut it. Later, they met at Impel Down and they bonded, and the last time they met at Marineford, Buggy was the one who returned Luffy his straw hat. Another example was when Luffy stored Ace's Vivre card inside his hat. There are more small details like these, but I know that people don't like when mysterious things like these are just connected to friendship and stuff like that, so let's move on to the second part of the video. The frozen straw hat of Marijua, which holds not only metaphoric meaning, but power as well. The most popular ideas about what this straw hat represents are that this hat belonged to Joy Boy or some giant. Some think it's an ancient weapon, Uranus, and some think it's Joy Boy's crown. I believe it's none of these, and Oda has already given us some hints to guess what it actually represents. If Joy Boy is anything like Luffy, he most likely had the same personality, so I don't think he had a crown or anything like that. Luffy doesn't want to rule anything, he just wants to be free, so the theories that the straw hat is Joy Boy's crown and Emu is just keeping it seem senseless to me. There must be a reason why Emu has it saved in Marijua and didn't destroy it. As I mentioned, Luffy's straw hat is a symbol of friendship and caring. Roger gave his straw hat to Shanks, Shanks gave it to Luffy, and Luffy has given his hat only to people he cares about. But this is not the only timeline. For example, Ace has a similar hat as well, and he also created a straw hat for Little Oars Jr. because he was close to the sun. Ace said that he learned how to make them in the land of Wano from Otama, so if Otama never taught taught Ace how to make that hat, then Oars Jr. would never become a Whitebeard ally and would not have made his huge contribution to saving Ace at Marineford. I also like that Oda mentioned that it was difficult for Ace due to his devil fruit to even build the hat at all, but he still did it. We also saw a straw hat in another timeline, and it was in Nolan's flashback. A random kid was wearing it 400 years ago. In the recent chapter, we also saw a Davy D clan member with a straw hat at God Valley. This leads me to believe that this straw hat tradition comes from Joy Boy himself. It had the same meaning 800 years ago too, so all the straw hats have the same meaning, but only one straw hat is special, the frozen one from Marijua. But why? In chapter 968, we saw that the Sea Kings spoke of two rulers. It's clear that they're talking about Joy Boy and the one who can speak with the Sea Kings directly, Poseidon, in this case Shirahoshi. Roger overheard this conversation when the Sea Kings said that Poseidon would be born in 10 years and she would need another 15 to grow. They also mentioned that these two sovereigns would meet again, which already happened. Luffy and Shirahoshi already met. Because of this, Roger realized that someone would be born who would eventually surpass the Roger pirates, and they were just too early. I believe Joy Boy gave a straw hat to Poseidon 800 years ago as a symbol of friendship, but it was not just a symbol. We know that Shirahoshi, the current Poseidon, is one of the weakest and most defenseless characters in the story, even though she holds one of the biggest powers. In gaming language, if her stats for attacking are 100 out of 100, her defense is around 0. And even for other characters, no matter how strong you are, it's nearly impossible to fight someone and protect an ancient weapon like her at the same time. What I'm trying to say is that even if Joy Boy tried to protect her during the Void Century, even a weaker character than Joy Boy could still sneak attack Poseidon and defeat her. Also, Joy Boy had a bigger enemy to fight, Emu. So I believe Joy Boy stored his strongest haki in a straw hat and gave it to Poseidon so it would protect her from enemies in a war. For example, when Shanks appeared on Whitebeard's ship, we saw that it automatically affected the Whitebeard pirates, and his haki was so strong that it even damaged the ship. Now imagine what Joy Boy's strongest haki could do. At Egghead, Oda revealed Joy Boy's haki knot. Joy Boy once sealed a portion of his king haki with an emmet, which could be released by untying a knot somewhere on its body. Due to possessing Joy Boy's haki, Emmet was capable of releasing it in a large burst all at once. The haki was potent enough to travel for a long distance outside of Egghead and cancel the devil fruit transformation powers of the 5 elders. The Gorosei had to go back to Marijua, and Emu had PTSD from it. And I'm sure that if Joy Boy gave Emmet a piece of his haki to protect him, then he sure gave some part of it to Poseidon, the most defenseless and one of the most useful characters of his crew. And I'm also sure it wasn't just a part of it, it's way more than that. Also, why do you think Oda even revealed the haki knot? Just to scare off all the Gorosei at Egghead and that's it? Of course not. It was preparation for something way bigger that will happen in the future. There's no way Emmet, a giant robot who survived for centuries, was the only one who got a piece of haki from Joy Boy. We don't know Joy Boy's full crew yet, but let's take an example from Luffy and the Straw Hats. Yes, probably Sanji, Zoro, and Jinbei won't need Luffy's haki, but if Frankie gets a haki knot, who's a very good parallel for Emmet, then Nami, Robin, Usopp, and the others will get one as well. And if I have to think of a character who needs Luffy's haki the most in the final war, then it's Shirahoshi without a doubt, a defenseless girl who has the power of an ancient weapon. Poseidon is not like Pluton. Pluton is most likely a giant ship which is nearly indestructible. It doesn't need any defense, but imagine Shirahoshi or a Poseidon 800 years ago in the final war. Yes, the Sea Kings will protect her, maybe some strong character as well, but in a world full of devil fruits, it's very difficult to protect someone like her no matter how strong you are. We saw the Luffy and Kizaru fight, and even though Luffy won in the end, he was struggling to protect Vegapunk and fight Kizaru at the same time. Now imagine if it was Emu, Shamrock, or someone way stronger than Kizaru. In conclusion, the frozen straw hat we see at Marijua belonged to Poseidon 800 years ago and was filled with Joy Boy's strongest haki. That's why this straw hat is so giant, and that's why Emu was holding a picture of Shirahoshi before visiting the frozen chamber. Emu can't destroy this straw hat because it will release Joy Boy's strongest haki, which we don't know what will do to either Emu, the Gorosei, or Marijua itself. Maybe Joy Boy's haki was so strong that the straw hat is even indestructible. That's why Emu is keeping the giant straw hat in a frozen chamber, deactivating its powers. Most likely Emu and the world government were also the ones who froze the ancient giants. As it seems, it's their usual tactic. When Emu had a PTSD episode over Joy Boy's haki knot, they probably freaked out because they thought they had captured and contained the last of his haki in his hat. As I mentioned at the start, Shanks lived in Marijua for years. He learned about Emu, Emu's contacts, the Nico Devil Fruit, and more. He for sure reached the frozen chamber as well. If Sabo could hide there and witness Emu, and Rocks managed to enter the flower room in a single single day, then during many years Shanks would discover the frozen chamber for sure. A strong haki user like Shanks would sense haki coming from the chamber as well. He knew from the start that a straw hat means more than just a hat, and when the Nika Devil Fruit chose Luffy, Shanks knew that Luffy was the chosen one. And as he mentioned later, he bet everything on him. I think it was also like a sign for the Roger Pirates along the Straw Hats' journey to notice the hat and help Luffy and the Straw Hats, Crocus, Rayleigh, Skopper-Gaban. In short, a straw hat is a symbol of friendship, and it's like a talisman for people in One Piece. Except the frozen straw hat in Marijua, which contains Joy Boy's strongest haki, and will be very useful in the future. And if it's ever confirmed that D stands for dawn, and that the straw hat is a symbol of the sun rising, it'll just be another amazing detail from Oda. For those that stayed this far, I have an idea why Luffy's straw hat might be significant and very important as well. One of the main questions I always had was why everyone's been waiting for exactly 800 years. What will happen 800 years after the Void Century, or why were the Roger Pirates early? This theory might answer these questions. I want to start with Gaimon. He's always amazed me. Not just him, but the whole chapter 22 where he makes his debut and only appearance in the story, cover stories aside. It always had me wondering too. I mean, it is a great chapter indeed, but it's also weird. It's its own arc. The story it tells is introduced and resolved in the same chapter. This doesn't happen in any other chapter. It introduces a character, Gaimon, that doesn't reappear or is even mentioned ever again until Egghead. That's interesting too. Why did Oda show him again after 25 years? In a sense, and despite how good it is, it looks like filler. It's in between two arcs, and nothing would change if the chapter just didn't exist. If you read One Piece but skipped chapter 22, you wouldn't even know Gaimon's story, but everything else would be the same to you. There would be nothing that felt different at all. With 29 pages, it's the second longest chapter in all of One Piece, only second to the very first chapter, which is 53 pages long. That's 10 pages longer than the average of that time, and 12 to 14 pages longer than chapters nowadays. Contrary to the rest of the manga, the chapter unromanticizes piracy. This is all very weird. Why would Oda write a chapter that's completely disconnected from the rest of the story? And why would he make it the second longest? That's giving the chapter a great deal of importance. It makes no sense, especially at the time. In pre-time skip One Piece, and even more so as early as the East Blue Saga, every single panel counts. There is no panel without a purpose, not one. But this whole panel seems to be precisely that. So the only reasonable option left, in my opinion, is that it must be connected to the overarching plot of the manga, to its core, to the One Piece. I believe it's connected to one of the most important panels of the whole post-time skip One Piece, Goldie Roger's arrival to Laugh Tale, the reading of the true history behind the Void Century, the finding of the One Piece for which he was crowned Pirate King. It was all just teased, left unsaid. This reaction is all we got. The reason is obvious, not to spoil what truly deserves to be revealed only when the protagonists of this story are the ones to achieve it. But there is an obvious question too. Why? Why did they laugh? It's funny how much relevance is given to this detail that should be nothing but an anecdote when compared to other, yet not revealed but teased parts of the story, such as, what's the One Piece? Why did the Roger Pirates leave it there? Where is Laugh Tale? How does one actually arrive there? Why has no one ever just stumbled upon it? Why was Roger too early? All those really important questions have only been teased casually throughout the manga, but one of the most iconic pages post-time skip was granted to a scene where they laughed. Isn't that quite weird as well? Interestingly enough, Gaimon and Roger have more things in common than one would expect. They were both pirates, and they looked for treasure following a treasure map. Yes, lots of characters in One Piece fit there. They both arrived at their destinations. They reached that treasure-marked spot. Reaching that place was the end of both their pirate careers. They both had to wait for 20 years after reaching their destination. Roger couldn't afford to wait that long, but he knew he was 20 years early, which is very oddly specific. The treasure Gaimon thought he'd find wasn't there, and just like him, after following the poneglyphs all the way to Laugh Tale, Roger didn't find the One Piece. It wasn't there. And that's why they all laughed like that. After years of traveling, the most wondrous and daunting venture in the world, they arrive only to learn that their treasure isn't there yet, that they were 20 years too early. That's the the reason why the Roger pirates didn't take the One Piece with them. One Piece starts with Roger saying he left the One Piece there for anybody's taking. But in Gaimon's chapter, we're told things don't work like that and first come, first serve. If they had found the One Piece, they would have taken it, but they didn't because they couldn't. They never found it. That's also why Shanks and Buggy are going for it now, but they weren't before. Why didn't they go sooner? It's not just that Roger couldn't accomplish something before those 20 years, it's that the treasure wasn't there, and it wouldn't be there for all those years either. And it is now that the time has come. That's why Shanks was waiting and why he decided to go after it after Luffy awakened his devil fruit. But why would the One Piece not be there? It's true that Gaimon's story tells us that treasure maps will usually lead to no treasure because it will have already been taken. But that's the point of the One Piece. No one has reached it yet, so no one could have taken it. And that's the plot twist with which those two opposite narratives reconcile. There was no treasure not because it hadn't been taken, but because it hadn't been left there yet. Here comes the last piece of this puzzle. 800 years ago, the people of the ancient kingdom set a lot of security measures to ensure that something, the One Piece, was safe. They hid it and set up the craziest and most difficult wild goose chase ever for whoever wanted to find it. But not only that, in order to make sure it wasn't found before a certain time, they made it completely unreachable until then, non-existent. The One Piece was sent 800 years forward with the Toki Toki no Mi, and all the Roger pirates got was a poneglyph telling them, among other things, that their treasure hadn't arrived yet, and they had Lady Toki with them to confirm that was a possibility. I also believe that not only the One Piece, but maybe one or a few of Joy Boy's crewmates or other people might time travel as well, and that's when Luffy's Straw Hat will become significant. When people who lived during Joy Boy's era 800 years ago witness a pirate with a straw hat who has reached the One Piece, then they will 100% be sure that he is the chosen one. I'm not saying that the Straw Hat is the deciding factor, as Teach, Shanks, or Buggy can still be the ones who will find the One Piece, but all I'm saying is that Luffy's Straw Hat will be like a confirmation. Whitebeard's words to Teach that he is not the man Roger is waiting for might not just be metaphorical. There could actually be someone waiting for them at Laugh Tale who time traveled from 800 years ago. That's it for today. Write what you think about these theories down in the comments, and if you want to know more about Blackbeard's future plans, you can click on this video right here. Thanks for watching. Bye.